The unexpected arrival. The Galactic Council chamber was always filled with light and sound. Tall windows glowed with the stars outside, and alien voices echoed in 100 tones. Representatives from across the galaxy sat in their seats discussing trade, wars, and peace treaties. It was supposed to be a normal day, but then everything changed. The massive doors of the chamber, carved from crystal stone, opened slowly with a long metallic groan. At first, no one noticed. Conversations continued, screens flickered, and the Chancellor was reading a speech. Then silence spread, like a wave moving across the hall. One by one, alien voices died out. Heads turned toward the doorway. 2 figures stood there. They were tall, broad-shouldered, and calm. They did not rush or stumble. They simply stood as if they owned the room. They were humans. The word itself carried fear. Whispers broke out instantly, whispered in alien tongues. Deathworlders. Humans. Impossible. Every council member knew the stories. Humans were from Earth, a world of storms, fire, and predators. A world where even the plants could kill. They were called Deathworlders, a title that meant dangerous, unstoppable, and unpredictable. No one expected them to come here. Not to this chamber. Not today. The humans began walking forward. Their steps echoed loudly in the quiet hall. Every alien felt the sound deep in their bones. Security drones moved closer, but none dared attack. The humans had no weapons visible, yet everyone knew they were weapons themselves. The Chancellor, a tall insectoid leader with golden wings, froze in mid-sentence. His claws tapped nervously on the desk. For centuries, the Council had discussed humanity only in private, behind closed doors, never directly in front of them. And now, 2 stood in their chamber, watching everything with sharp, unblinking eyes. One of the humans was a man, older with short gray hair and a steady expression. His face carried the calm of someone who had seen countless battles. Beside him walked a younger woman, her dark eyes scanning every corner of the chamber, as if memorizing the weaknesses of the place. Together, they moved with the confidence of predators entering a forest filled with prey. The aliens shifted uncomfortably in their seats. A reptilian ambassador lowered his crest in submission. A bird-like delegate pulled her wings close. Even the towering, armored warriors of the Koran Empire looked uneasy. The humans said nothing. That silence was worse than any speech. It pressed down on the chamber like gravity, making the air feel heavy. Finally, one council member whispered too loudly, "Why are they here?" No one answered. The humans kept walking until they reached the center of the chamber just below the Chancellor's high podium. They stopped there, side by side, staring up at the hundreds of alien leaders. The man folded his hands calmly behind his back. The woman tilted her head slightly, as if amused by the fear around them. The Chancellor tried to regain his voice. His wings flickered nervously as he spoke. This session is closed to outsiders. Your kind, were not invited." The man raised one eyebrow, a tiny human gesture, but in the silent hall it felt like a roar. He did not reply. He only looked at the Chancellor, and the insectoid leader's voice cracked. Across the chamber, alien hearts pounded faster. Some wanted to call for guards. Others thought of fleeing. But no one moved. The humans had not spoken a single word, yet the entire council felt cornered. It was as if 2 shadows of war had entered the room, carrying the weight of 1,000 battles on their shoulders. The younger human finally smiled, just a little. Her voice, when it came, was calm and sharp. "Interesting place you have here, the Gaiki." Words were simple, harmless. But the way she said them, soft, confident, unafraid, sent shivers through the entire hall. Every alien understood in that moment. The humans had not come by accident. They had chosen this day, this meeting, this exact moment to walk into the council, and they had done it without fear, without permission, and without hesitation. For the first time in centuries, the Galactic Council felt powerless in its own chamber. The humans had arrived, and nothing would ever be the same again. The council's fear. The silence in the chamber stretched longer than anyone could bear. The humans stood in the middle of the hall, calm and steady, as if they had all the time in the world. Their presence alone was enough to turn the grand chamber of the Galactic Council into a cage of fear. Aliens shifted in their seats. Claws scraped against polished stone. Feathers ruffled. Tails twitched nervously. No one wanted to be the first to speak. Yet everyone was desperate for someone to break the heavy silence. The council was made of hundreds of species. Some came from worlds where storms lasted years, others from planets where gravity crushed mountains. They were proud civilizations, mighty in their own ways. But none of them lived on a death world. None of them were human. The old human man scanned the chamber slowly. His eyes moved from one alien delegate to another. There was no aggression in his gaze, but there was something else, something worse. He looked at them the way a soldier looks at a battlefield, measuring, calculating, understanding. The aliens felt exposed, as if every secret and weakness was being read like an open book. The young human woman folded her arms and let her eyes wander across the room. She stopped for a moment on the towering guards at the edges of the chamber. The guards wore heavy armor, their weapons humming softly with power, yet not one of them moved. They were trained to fight, but none wanted to test their strength against two Deathworlders. Finally, the Chancellor tried again. His voice was thin, his wings trembling. "This is a violation. This is an intrusion. You do not belong here." The man tilted his head slightly. His expression remained calm, but the quiet focus in his eyes made the Chancellor falter. He could not continue his words. His throat felt dry, and his next sentence died before reaching his tongue. Whispers filled the chamber, rising like a storm. "They are not supposed to be here. Why now? Why today? Do they plan to attack?" The council had heard stories of human battles, fleets destroyed, empires humbled, and the stories always carried the same warning. Humans did not need large numbers to win. Two humans standing here might be more dangerous than an army outside the chamber. An aquatic delegate from the deep ocean world of Rissa leaned forward, his gills fluttering nervously. "Perhaps they came to negotiate?" he said in a thin, watery voice. The bird-like ambassador beside him shook her head, her feathers stiff with fear. "No, Deathworlders never negotiate unless they already have the advantage." The woman smiled faintly at that, as if she had heard the words. The ambassador froze, lowering her gaze. The man finally spoke. His voice was calm, deep, and steady. It carried no anger, no threat, yet every syllable struck like a hammer. "We were not invited." A shiver passed through the chamber. His words were simple, but the weight behind them was impossible to ignore. He was not complaining. He was stating a fact as if the entire council had made a mistake they could not fix. The Chancellor tried to reply, but his wings folded tight against his body. He had no courage left. Another ambassador, a reptilian leader with a crown of bone spikes, hissed in frustration. "Why are you here? What do you want?" The humans looked at him. They did not answer immediately. The pause was unbearable. The reptilian leader sank back in his seat, his scales shifting pale with unease. The council chamber felt colder now. The air seemed thinner, heavier. The humans were not threatening anyone, yet the fear only grew. Every alien realized the same truth. The humans controlled the room without force, without weapons, without even raising their voices. The woman spoke softly, her tone like a knife cutting through glass. "We came to listen." The hall erupted with whispers again. To listen? What did that mean? Did they plan to expose secrets? Did they want to judge the council? Or were they simply mocking the galaxy by walking into its most powerful chamber, without fear? The man's gaze swept across the room once more. Wherever his eyes landed, aliens turned away. No one dared to meet his stare. The Chancellor finally managed to speak again, but his voice was small. "You cannot simply arrive without warning. This is unacceptable." The older human gave the smallest of smiles. It was not friendly. It was the kind of smile that said, "You can do nothing about it." The truth spread across the chamber like fire. The council feared many things: wars, rebellions, rival empires. But in that moment, they feared two humans more than anything else. And the worst part? The humans had not yet said why they were here. The first words. The chamber felt like a prison of silence. Hundreds of alien leaders sat frozen, their eyes locked on the two humans standing in the center. For long moments, the Deathworlders said, "Nothing." The council waited, nerves tightening, fear growing. Then finally, the old human spoke. His voice was not loud. It was not angry. But it carried a weight that crushed the air around him. "Why?" he asked slowly, his eyes scanning the chamber. "Do you speak of peace while building fleets for war?" The words dropped like meteors into the hall. Gasps spread through the alien rows. Some delegates leaned back in shock. Others looked down at their desks as if the floor might swallow them. No one had expected such a question. No one dared to answer it. The man's voice was calm, but every alien heard the storm behind it. The question was not just words. It was an accusation. It was a mirror held up to the council's face. The Chancellor opened his mandibles, his wings twitching in panic. That is a misunderstanding," he stammered. "The council builds fleets only for protection." The young human woman tilted her head, her dark eyes glinting like steel. "Protection," she repeated softly, almost like a whisper. "From whom?" The question stabbed deeper. It was too direct, too sharp. The council had debated this same issue in private for years, but never so openly, never with Deathworlders watching. A heavy-bodied reptilian delegate slammed his claw against the desk, his scales dark with anger. "You have no right to question us," he hissed. "This is our chamber, this is our law." The woman's lips curved in the faintest smile. She didn't even raise her voice when she replied, "And yet, here we are." The chamber erupted, in whispers again. The words were quiet, but the meaning was undeniable. The humans were not begging for a place. They were not asking for approval. They had taken it simply by walking in. The older human took a step forward. The sound of his boot echoed loudly, each strike like a drumbeat. "You claim to want peace," he continued, "yet we have seen your hidden shipyards. We have traced your secret supply lines. Do not pretend innocence before us." At once the chamber's lights flickered. A ripple of tension swept across the room. Hidden shipyards? Secret supply lines? How did the humans know? The Chancellor's wings buzzed nervously. You speak lies," he shouted, but his trembling voice betrayed his fear. The woman reached into her jacket. A sudden panic spread. Several guards tightened their grips on their weapons, but instead of drawing a gun, she pulled out a small cube. She set it on the council table. The cube flickered. Holograms burst into the air. Bright images of fleets in construction, maps of hidden bases, coded transmissions that only the highest members of the council should know. Every alien froze. The proof was undeniable. The humans knew more than they should. They had data no outsider could possibly access. They had seen the council's secrets. A silence heavier than stone fell across the chamber. The old human looked at them all. "We are not here to start a war," he said slowly, "but we will not sit by while you prepare one and call it peace." The younger woman leaned forward slightly, her voice cutting through the silence. "We came to hear your answer, not your excuses." Dozens of alien eyes dropped. Some leaders looked ashamed, others furious. The reptilian delegate who had shouted before now sat stiff, his claws shaking. The bird-like ambassador lowered her wings and whispered something only her translator could hear. The council had faced rebellions, invasions, and rival empires, but nothing had ever felt like this. Two humans, standing without fear, tearing through their lies with nothing but words. The Chancellor tried one last time. His mandibles clicked nervously. You threaten the balance of this chamber. Your presence is... The man cut him off with a single word. Enough. The sound of that word was final, like the closing of a steel door. It carried no anger, but it ended the Chancellor's sentence instantly. No one dared to speak after it. The truth was clear to everyone in the chamber. 2 humans, without armies, without weapons, had shaken the most powerful council in the galaxy. And this was only the beginning, a show of power. The holograms hovered in the air like ghosts, painting the truth for every eye to see. Shipyards hidden inside gas giants, supply routes disguised as relief convoys, weapon stockpiles buried beneath neutral worlds. Every secret the council thought safe was now floating in the middle of the chamber, revealed by 2 humans who had entered without invitation. The silence was unbearable. Some delegates tried to look away, but the images followed them, bright and undeniable. Others leaned forward, unable to tear their eyes from the proof of their own hypocrisy. The younger human woman tapped the cube gently, and the holograms shifted again. Now it was not ships or weapons. It was messages, private transmissions, encrypted orders, and council members' signatures. Every lie was documented. The Chancellor's wings folded tight against his back. His mandibles trembled as he tried to speak. This information, impossible. It cannot be real. The man's expression did not change. His voice was steady, unshaken. It is real. Deny it, and we will show more. Deny it again, and we will bring witnesses. The chamber erupted in chaos. Delegates shouted in panic, their voices overlapping in a storm of fear. They cannot know this. How did they find it? This is treachery. The guards along the walls tightened their grips on their weapons. Their armor hummed with energy, ready to strike. But none moved forward. Every one of them felt the weight of the human's presence. They could fire, but deep down they knew it would not matter. The woman looked at the guards and smiled faintly, as if daring them to try. Her smile was not cruel, but confident, unshaken. The guards shifted, uneasily, some stepping back instead of forward. A hulking warrior delegate covered in scales and plated armor slammed his fist against his desk. His voice boomed, shaking the air. This is an act of aggression. This is blackmail. The man turned his gaze toward him. His eyes were calm, almost tired, but they cut deeper than any blade. If truth feels like blackmail, perhaps it is, because you fear it. The warrior faltered. His fist, once raised in anger, slowly lowered back to the desk. His scales paled. The younger human pressed another command on the cube. The holograms shifted once more, and this time the chamber gasped. In unison, it was an image of the council chamber itself. The view was from above, from far beyond the atmosphere of the capital world. Orbiting satellites, warships in stealth. Humans had been watching all along. Every alien froze. If humans had such access, then the council was not only exposed, it was defenseless. The woman's voice broke the silence again. It was soft, almost gentle, yet every word pressed down like iron. You build fleets in the shadows, but shadows cannot hide you. Not from us. Her words echoed in every mind. The aliens realized the truth. Humans did not need to fight. They had already shown they could pierce every wall, break every secret, and walk into the galaxy's most guarded chamber without permission. The Chancellor tried once more, his voice trembling. What? What do you want from us? The man stepped forward, his boots echoing again. He looked around the hall, meeting the eyes of dozens of leaders. Some turned away instantly. Others held his gaze for a second before breaking, unable to bear the weight. What we want, he said, is honesty. What we want is for this council to admit the truth it hides. We do not come with armies. We do not come with threats. We come with proof. He gestured toward the cube. The holograms flickered, then vanished, leaving only the memory of fear behind. The woman leaned closer to the council table, her voice sharp and calm. We could have destroyed your fleets. We could have exposed you to your enemies. Instead, we came here, to your chamber, to speak to you face to face. Her words carried more power than any weapon. The council understood at last. The humans were not showing weakness by arriving without fleets. They were showing strength, the kind of strength that did not need war to win. The reptilian delegate who had shouted earlier now sat trembling. His claws scratched against the desk, nervously leaving deep marks. He whispered, his voice barely audible. They do not need to conquer us. They already have. The chamber grew still again. No one argued. No one shouted. Every delegate knew the truth. The humans had shown a glimpse of power. Not ships, not weapons, but knowledge. And in the galaxy, knowledge could be more terrifying than any fleet. The council sat trapped in their own fear, unable to decide if they were dealing with enemies or saviors. And the humans? They had only just begun. The silent threat. The holograms faded, but the fear they left behind stayed heavy in the chamber. Every delegate could still see the images in their minds. Fleets, secret plans, war preparations, all revealed by two humans standing in the middle of the hall. Yet the humans no longer moved. They did not raise their voices, did not threaten. They simply stood there in silence. And that silence was worse than any roar of weapons. The old man's hands were folded calmly behind his back. The young woman rested her fingertips lightly on the council's table, her gaze sweeping over the alien leaders as if she was measuring each one. They had spoken enough already. Now their quiet presence spoke louder than any words. An amphibian delegate, his skin slick with fear sweat, leaned toward his neighbor. "Why are they not saying more?" he whispered nervously. "Why do they wait?" The neighbor, a feathered ambassador, shook her head quickly. "Because they do not need to." If the word spread like an infection, the council realized that the humans had already done enough. They had proven they could see everything. They had shown that they could enter the chamber without permission. They had revealed secrets no one else dared speak aloud. Anything they said now would only be decoration. The silence itself was the message. One by one, the alien leaders shifted in their seats. A hulking warrior who had once faced battlefields now found himself unable to meet the humans' eyes. A reptilian envoy who had once commanded fleets kept his claws hidden beneath his desk, afraid they might tremble in plain sight. The guards along the walls gripped their weapons tighter, but none moved. Their armor seemed suddenly thin. Their training seemed worthless. The humans had not touched a weapon, and yet every soldier in the room felt defeated. Finally, the Chancellor's wings quivered. He could not endure the silence any longer. You cannot simply walk in here and demand answers," he said, his mandibles clicking nervously. "This council is not yours to command." The man looked at him, and the silence returned stronger. He did not reply, not right away. He simply held the Chancellor's gaze. Seconds stretched like hours. The Chancellor's wings drooped, the strength leaving his voice. The woman broke the silence at last. She leaned forward slightly, her voice soft, almost gentle. "We demand nothing." The word sent chills across the chamber, because everyone knew it was true. The humans did not demand. They simply stated reality. If they wanted, they could have forced the council. If they wished, they could have destroyed fleets, revealed secrets to enemies, or walked out and let chaos consume the galaxy. But they hadn't. They had only spoken, and now they waited. An aquatic delegate with shimmering, Gills whispered, his voice trembling. They are giving us a chance." The woman's eyes flicked toward him. She said nothing, but her silence confirmed his words. The council realized what made the humans terrifying was not only their strength, but their restraint. They did not shout. They did not show anger. Their calm presence was worse than fury, because it meant they were in complete control. The old man finally stepped forward again, his boots echoing on the stone floor. The sound was slow, steady, and final. We came here without ships, without weapons, without armies, he said, his voice calm. If you fear us still, then perhaps the fear does not come from us, but from what you know about yourselves. The words struck deep. Every alien leader felt exposed. The humans had forced them to see their own lies, their own betrayals, their own weakness. And then the man fell silent once more. That silence spread again, pressing down on the chamber like a weight. Delegates shifted, coughed, cleared their throats, but nothing could break the heavy quiet. The humans had no need to say more. Their silence was a threat more powerful than a fleet of warships. A reptilian delegate muttered, unable to stop his fear. They could destroy us without firing a shot. No one disagreed. The young woman straightened, pulling her hand back from the table. She looked at the Chancellor, then at the rows of alien leaders, her eyes sharp as blades. Choose your next words carefully, she said. It was not a warning. It was a fact. And every alien in the chamber understood that one wrong word, one wrong move could change the fate of the galaxy forever. The choice given. The chamber was a sea of unease. The humans had spoken little, yet their silence and presence weighed heavier than entire fleets. Every alien delegate could feel it. The balance of power had shifted. The council, once proud and unshaken, now sat like frightened children caught in a lie. The old human let the silence stretch a little longer. Then, at last, he spoke again. His voice was calm, steady and low, but it filled the chamber as if the walls themselves carried his words. We are not here to conquer, he said. We are not here to destroy. But make no mistake, if you choose war, we will not hesitate. The simple statement cracked through the room like thunder. No anger, no shouting, just certainty. The kind of certainty that comes only from absolute confidence. The younger woman stepped forward, her boots clicking softly on the polished floor. She stopped in the center of the hall, her gaze sweeping across the countless eyes fixed on her. She spoke slowly, each word sharp enough to pierce through the noise of alien thoughts. We offer you two paths. The first, friendship, cooperation, trade, knowledge, progress shared openly without deceit. She let the words hang in the air. For a moment, hope flickered in some alien hearts. Perhaps this was not the end. Perhaps humanity wanted peace. Then her tone shifted, colder now, though still calm. The second path is war. Not one you can win. Not one you can even survive. Because if we must fight, we will not fight as rulers. We will fight as Deathworlders. The last word carried weight like a hammer. Every alien shivered. They had all heard the stories, the myths of Earth, the storms, the predators, the endless struggle for survival. If humans fought the same way they had lived for millennia, the galaxy would drown in fire and blood. A deep, nervous voice rose from the chamber. It was the amphibian delegate, his gills fluttering anxiously. Why give us a choice at all? Why not simply take what you want? The woman looked at him, and for a moment her eyes softened. Because that is not who we are. Humanity does not conquer worlds. We conquer fear. We conquer obstacles. We conquer the impossible. Her words cut through the fear like a blade of light. The aliens realized the truth. The humans had not come to enslave or dominate. They had come to prove a point, that the galaxy could not ignore them anymore. The Chancellor tried to steady himself. His wings quivered as he spoke. And if we choose peace? If we choose friendship? The old man's expression shifted just slightly. Not a smile, but something close to it. Then the galaxy will rise higher than ever before. Together. The hope flickered stronger now. But just as quickly, the woman's voice returned, cold as steel. And if you choose otherwise, then your fleets will burn before they ever leave your docks. The chamber fell into silence again. The words were not shouted, but they carried the finality of judgment. No one doubted them. Every alien in the room knew the humans would not bluff. If forced, they would fight, and they would win. The reptilian delegate who had been loud before now leaned forward slowly, his voice low. And what if some among us refuse? What if not all agree to your terms? The man turned his gaze on him. The look was calm, measured, but heavy with meaning. Then you will stand alone, and alone you will fall. The reptilian lowered his eyes instantly, unable to withstand the weight of the stare. The humans had given the council their choice. There would be no negotiations, no endless debates, no twisting of words. Two paths, clear and undeniable. Friendship or destruction. The younger woman stepped back to stand beside the man again. Together they faced the council one last time in silence. The choice was not spoken again. It did not need to be. The council had heard it. They had felt it. The weight of humanity's offer pressed down on them like a mountain. Now, the galaxy itself held its breath, waiting to see what path the council would take. The exit that shook the galaxy. The council chamber was silent. No delegate moved, no guard spoke. Every alien heart pounded with the weight of the human's words. The choice had been given, clear and final. The two Deathworlders did not press further. They did not threaten again. They had said what they came to say. Now the silence itself demanded an answer, but the council had none. The Chancellor sat frozen, his golden wings drooping with exhaustion. His mandibles clicked faintly, but no words formed. He had faced wars, rebellions, and crises across centuries, but never had he felt so powerless. Never had he been so utterly unable to speak. The humans exchanged a glance. A silent understanding passed between them, as if they had already expected this silence, this paralysis. The younger woman's lips curved into the faintest hint of a smile, not of amusement, but of certainty. The man gave a small nod. They turned. Their boots echoed across the polished stone floor as they began to walk toward the great crystal doors. Each step sounded louder than thunder, though neither of them hurried. They moved with calm precision, as if the council chamber was theirs, as if they had been walking these halls their entire lives. No guard moved to stop them. The armored soldiers along the walls lowered their weapons almost unconsciously, as though their own instincts commanded them to stay still. The Deathworlders did not need weapons. The entire galaxy had just seen that. Whispers broke out as the humans neared the doors. They're leaving. They said nothing more. What does it mean? But no one dared speak loudly. Every voice was hushed, fearful, uncertain. The doors opened slowly with a deep groan, just as they had when the humans first arrived. Bright light from the hall beyond spilled into the chamber, cutting across the floor like a blade. The humans stepped into it without pause. For a brief moment, their silhouettes stood framed in the light. Two figures from the most dangerous world in the galaxy. Two Deathworlders who had entered without permission, exposed every secret, and offered a choice that could shape the future of every star system. Then they were gone. The doors closed behind them with a heavy thud, sealing the chamber once more. The silence that followed was unbearable. The council members shifted nervously, some looking at one another, others staring down at the floor as if answers might be carved there. But no one spoke. Not yet. Finally, the reptilian delegate, who had shouted so boldly at the beginning, whispered, in a voice so low it barely carried, "They gave us mercy." The bird-like ambassador shook her head, feathers trembling. "No, they gave us a warning." The amphibian delegate, his gills fluttering, looked around the chamber with wide eyes. "Do you not see? They did not need fleets. They did not need armies. They came here alone, and we could do nothing to stop them." The Chancellor closed his eyes, his wings sagged. "We have seen power today," he admitted, his voice heavy with shame. "Power beyond fleets, beyond walls, beyond secrets. The question is, what will we do with the choice they gave us?" No one answered, because deep inside, every alien in that chamber knew the truth. The humans had already decided the future. The Council's choice was only an illusion. Whether they admitted it or not, The galaxy would now move forward with humanity's shadow over it. Outside the chamber, the two humans walked calmly through the vast halls. Alien guards and servants froze as they passed, some bowing their heads, instinctively others stepping back to give them space. The woman glanced once over her shoulder, her eyes sharp and unreadable. The man said nothing, his expression calm and steady. They had done what they came to do. They had not shouted. They had not fought. They had not needed to. And yet, in a single session, they had shaken the galaxy more than any war in living memory. From that day onward, the story would spread. Across ships, across stations, across worlds, whispers would become legends, legends would become fear, and fear would become respect. Two Deathworlders had walked into the council, and when they left, nothing was the same again.